Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Lady Freedom here, bringing you another raw narrative. Today, we're going to discuss the third part of and the conclusion of Smiley's impromptu interview with Chris and Katie Proudfoot. We only have about 30 minutes left, so we're going to just jump right into it. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about everything we heard and some new developments and some thoughts that I have about it. It's a lot, so let's get into it. Let's watch.
Medicine before bed, and did he sleepwalk?
I
Yeah, did
don't
he
think you have
sleepwalk?
anything. Yeah, I don't. I as long as I've been in Sebastian's life, I've never heard of him sleepwalk. Now, getting up in the middle of the night and sneaking snacks and stuff, that's one thing. But
And to
sleepwalking, no.
clarify, he's not sneaking food because we starve him, because that's absolutely not the case. He just likes to munch on a bunch of junk food in the middle of the night because he doesn't get a bunch of sugar. He's, one dessert and he wants to eat the whole box. So he gets up in the middle of the night and sneaks snacks.
Sneaks
Yeah.
candy in his room and hides the wrappers under his bed. I mean, same stuff basic kids do. It's just one. I'm not gonna have bugs throughout the house. We told him you eat in the kitchen, you eat in the dining room.
And throw
When
your
you're done
wrappers
with
in
it,
the
you put it
trash
in the
can.
trash. That's the only thing we've asked him.
And that what happened to her head, that's what they want to know. And
What happened to
that's
her
what they're
head?
saying. Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about.
If they could clarify a little bit more, I don't know.
They're saying you almost killed her. I,
Huh?
like I said, I don't know anything about Rachel.
Okay.
It's posted on the board.
Yeah. If they'll, I can't see the comments for some reason. It's not
Okay.
showing me the
It says
comments,
you
but
about killed Rachel. There was blood everywhere. Where, sir, you thought she was dead. I don't
blood
know.
everywhere. Thought I would. No. Okay. That's news to me, but no.
It could be they're paying. They paid to ask that question, which I'm just now getting to, and they've asked it 2 or 3 times. That's why. I'm kid. I don't mean to make y'all
No,
feel.
no, 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 no. I'm not. I'm sitting. I'm like, and just like her head, blood everywhere.
I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. Well,
Again, that
my
was
my
her.
mother actually still talks to Rachel. I mean that right there ought to tell you the kind of relationship that my family had with her. We still talk to her. She's got her 2 kids. So where that all that stuff's coming from is very interesting. But no.
Well, there y'all have it, folks. Did LE check vehicles or and your trailer that you took to Memphis? Do you,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, is that life threatening if he don't take that medicine?
No.
But it's not good that he don't have it.
Right.
It's not good because if you take medicine for so long and you just come off of medicine just quick, fast, and in a hurry, it can cause seizures.
Yes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be weaned off if and when he came off of it. It was not supposed to be a sudden stop.
Like, what do you think now? We're 3 weeks later. What is your thoughts now? Like, what do you think?
I wish I had a freaking clue on where my son was, to be honest with you. None of it makes sense.
I mean,
I've,
anything.
I mean, all I can say is everything that I've come up with, um, I've asked law enforcement to look into, and so far nothing has led to anything substantial in finding him. I mean, we've gone over wild probabilities,
Hey,
all
we got a
sorts of
life flight bird
stuff,
inbound.
and we
10-4.
I haven't been able to figure out anything that explains where my son is.
Do you know Carrie Fisher personally, the one that redirected the search? Was a
No,
convict. You know who I'm talking about? She was a convicted felon.
I
Yes, I know
heard
what you're talking
about
about.
that, but no, I've never met her before.
How
I
do you
don't
feel
know
about
her at all.
that?
We talked to the law enforcement about it to ask because we didn't know anything about it until we started getting told that there was an issue, and somebody fell and was potentially interrupting the searches and whatnot, and we went to them and was like, what the heck, like, what is this, what are y'all doing with it, is this true? And I don't know all of the results on if law enforcement like directly addressed her or anything like that. I just know that that she led a search, I believe, down in Goodlettsville. And at the end of the day, at least it was a search that happened.
So you don't think she hurt anything, or
I mean, it's nothing more than an opinion, but I think probably because
yeah?
law enforcement said that there was no like hindrance that they know of that happened from that, but it's beyond the whole internet blow up.
Oh, no, they want to know if he was afraid of Chris. Is that why he was wearing the pull-ups?
No, he wasn't wearing pull ups because he was afraid of Chris. Sebastian had a recent autism diagnosis, but Sebastian has a chromosome deletion that he was diagnosed with when he was a baby.
What are some of the signs or symptoms for Sebastian if he misses his medicine?
He's got combined type ADHD, so he does get, hyper. Um, his behaviors become a little more like he'll flip flop between his moods more, like being overly excited or, um, he has periods where he's really calm, where he just hyper focuses on, whatever it is that he's playing or fidgeting with. He um, can become a little more temperamental, like more easily aggravated. Not that he becomes violent, but he just gets aggravated easier.
Right.
Um, he does get an increased appetite when he's off of his meds. An unfortunate side effect of those is that they do suppress the appetite a little bit. So he'll eat more, and he will be more. I'm trying to think of the right word. Um, like when he'll start telling you something, he'll be on a bunch of different subjects, but all like in the same sentence.
He's
So
very
Right.
his
sporadic. He's
thoughts
very
become less
sporadic. He's all over the
coordinated.
place.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
becomes a lot less coordinated in his thoughts.
The trash cans at the end of the driveway Sunday night. Was
Hmm.
there any strange cars around then? Did the dogs, and they want to know, did the dog pick up that scent at the end of the driveway?
Can
So,
I? No, okay.
Okay.
go ahead.
No. So I'd like to clarify this whole dog scent thing for once and for all.
Mhm.
So the dog scent, everybody said, "Oh, the dogs didn't get a scent. Dogs didn't get." The dogs got a scent.
Mhm.
What the dogs got and where it led to, there's a lot of misinformation as far as to the road, to the construction site, to this, to that, to this. Um, for the record, there were so many dogs used. I don't know if we actually have a true count. On the day one, there was 5 dogs automatically. We know for a fact. They brought dogs in from out of state, different counties, all over the place. Um, but of all the dogs, there was a couple that took them through a construction zone
Mhm.
and took them over to a retention pond. Now, the retention pond is no higher than knee deep. They walked it and they drained it. But from there, the scent disappears. There's poof.
Why did you lawyer up? They said.
Boy, well, I mean, who's my lawyer? I'd love to meet him. I mean, I'm not trying to be a smart ass, folks,
Yeah,
but we
I'm
don't.
just
I
asking
mean, if somebody said we got a lawyer, I'd like to meet him because,
the
sure.
Explain to me why you keep making comments about what people think of you, Chris. Why not focus on searching for Sebastian? You still there, Chris?
Hello, can you hear me now? I don't know what
Okay.
happened.
Yeah, I can.
The uh, the whole thing about I heard your question. My answer is simple. We want correct information out there. We don't want false information, which unfortunately somebody has put out false information. And the downside is I mean, one anchor in particular. I don't need to put the name out there. The one news anchor, instead of just reporting, kept insinuating stuff, which in itself is a problem. And it drew the focus away from Sebastian and started focusing more on, you know, who did it? Who did it? Well, these people are, and that was a problem. So we don't want false information. None of the parents, none of the family members want false information. We just want the accurate information out there and people to focus on finding him instead of bashing parents or bashing something that they don't like, and just if people would put that focus into finding Sebastian instead of bashing us, that would be amazing. We love you all regardless. I don't
Having a Wi-Fi issues, or is that where he's at right now working?
I think it's where he's at.
Invited to Nancy Grace, but I'm sure she would love to have them.
We've actually reached out to Nancy Grace and hadn't heard back. We didn't know about the Nancy Grace interview. I think it would be great because she's got such a vast audience and a way of getting it out there big time.
finding Sebastian is every bit as important as anything else. But at the same time, do I want to sit down with somebody who's drugged me through the mud, continues to drag us through the mud, and keeps putting false information out there, which causes a lot of problems, not just for us, but for the law enforcement folks that are also doing their job trying to find Sebastian? It's an issue.
What about Nick Barris? I mean,
That's who we're referring to.
okay.
Right. And unfortunately, and it's nothing against everybody out there. There's stuff that people don't know, and they're not going to be, they won't know because they weren't privy to the conversations. Not only that, but it just sucks. And there's
Yeah.
difference in journalism and trying to get your Emmy nomination. There's a difference.
Okay.
And I'm not, and like I said, I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, trust me, if I can go to everybody else and I can go get all these people and we can get Nancy Grace and we can get anybody else out there to spread the word, I'm not going to worry about one anchor. I'm not.
What would you say to Sebastian today?
I miss him. I want him home. Looking forward to him being back home. I'm looking to see, happy to get things back to normal instead of chaos. I mean, I'm not a man of emotional words, but Sebastian, he knows. Deep down, he knows. Let's say that one more time. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
If you could turn back time and you could change anything about that Sunday, what would it be? I know you were not home. You were in Memphis. But if you could do anything over about that Sunday, what would you do?
If I could go back and change anything, I wished I was able to work in town. Maybe things would have been different because we both would have been home. I don't know. I mean, there's so many shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and I wished I could have, and wished I would have, and I don't have the answers because I don't know. I mean, I know I got my stepson's missing. My house is not whole. There's a big emptiness right now.
Somebody said it took you 7 hours to get home.
It's a 7+ hour round trip from my house to Memphis.
Yeah. So
Well, and some of those folks' comment is correct. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Because I cannot leave. I can't just. It's not a normal job. You can't just tell your boss I'm out of here and walk out the door, get in your car and leave. I mean, there's a lot of safety involved.
Yeah.
Sebastian's dad, same thing. He's not going to be able to just be like, hey, I'm out of here and walk out the door. I left as soon as I could, when I could.
Somebody wants to know why you didn't want him around your daughter.
That is a personal family matter
Okay.
that unfortunately that's not one I'm gonna open up.
Okay.
It's not
Well, I heard that is he supposed to be a witness in some kind of case that you have with your wife? Is that true?
No,
Okay.
no, ma'am.
no.
So I've heard that somebody said he was supposed to be a witness in my custody case with my daughter,
Okay.
and absolutely not. I don't know where that came from, but I mean, I when I heard it, I was laughing internally. I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, how come Ellie, do you think, hasn't publicly cleared you? Like,
Right, but
why?
they can't.
Why?
Because the
Protocol.
investigation is still ongoing, because Sebastian is still missing, which is why they came out and clarified that no, we are not suspects, and yes, we are. Um,
I
and yeah,
so
they.
because there's so many agencies involved in this investigation, and I mean across the board, and you think of an alphabet, it's probably involved, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I have begged and begged and begged, and so has my wife. Seth, when he was at the house before, same thing. We all asked, why can't you come out and just say it? Y'all told us to our faces, you know, it, and the response we get, because it's an ongoing investigation and protocol does not allow us to do that. And that is
Hmm.
the answer we're given.
Stuff don't add up. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm
No,
really
I
not.
mean this. So here's something that's very unique. Um, and I mean we talk about it whenever they come and they talk to us or they call us on the phone. This is a case that literally has got all of these agencies stumped. Okay, and I'm saying this very openly as far as playing devil's advocate. Let's say one of us was suspected of foul play. Let's say something, right?
Right.
There's no way that we would outdupe all these agencies. There's no way. However, this 15-year-old boy has managed to outdupe everybody. Call him Houdini. He always wanted to be a ninja, and we kept goofing around. Well, he has officially done it because poof, nothing. And it's the cops have told us this is a case that will go down as a researched study case where they're asking the questions and looking for answers, and literally nothing. Everything they try to come up with, blank. I mean, I wish there was something, anything.
Speaking on him not fighting with the Facebook groups, I see you in there. It makes me want to go in there. I'm just saying.
Well, and don't get me wrong, and I like I said, and I've opened that communication with you, and I told you, you want to
Yeah.
talk, you call me, you want to send me a message, something, and as I've been very respectful to you, I haven't,
You have.
you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I may not always say the right things, I may not, but it's that last time I looked in the mirror, I'm a human. I'm entitled to my emotions, I'm entitled to my opinions, and I respect those, and I respect everybody else's just as much.
Yes, sir.
There's one thing that compassion is a virtue that is in very short demand in today's society. Because if you sit back and you look at all these families, now we got another one, Riley, you know, a 6'7" guy disappeared in the flat, gone. Now we got another family that's hurting. You know, if you as a person ever set in the shoes that me, Katie, and Seth sit in to this day, or the Riley family for that much, I promise you, the outlook that you're going to see from our view, you'll understand it. You'll be so riddled with emotions. And you really don't care because all you want is the same end result. You just want your loved one.
Construction site that was by your house. Maybe he thought that was Chris's
Oh
job.
Lord, no, 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 no. Sebastian, no. Sebastian knows when my job sites. Oh, he knows what to look for, and
The
what I
construction
do
site.
has no equipment of that manufacturer on that site. Period.
I'm
The
sorry.
construction site near our house isn't like a skyscraper. It's just houses and homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're building a small subdivision.
And we've searched it several times.
I mean, I'm currently sitting. I mean, today's my last night covering this crane, but I'm sitting at Vanderbilt University at the hospital, 300 feet in the air, with a skyline view, and I get to sit here and do what I do. But I also sit here and I watch life flight helicopters come in and land every so often at Vanderbilt and at the Children's Hospital. And
Yeah.
I have nothing but to sit here and wonder, could one of those be Sebastian?
No.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because I've got confirmation that there's folks in Australia, Spain, England, Austria,
UK.
UK that they've got wind of this and they've got some posters posted. So it was actually kind of cool. I've never thought that would happen, but that's pretty cool. Well, I said it before, when he does come home, and everybody complained to how packed the block was with cop cars. Well, he's now become like the son of Sumner County, so whew, it's gonna be a long line.
I want to spread his face to the ends of the earth and back because he's out there somewhere and someone does know something and someone needs to come forward. Whoever may have him, assuming that someone might have him, needs to let him come home. And we need everybody everywhere to see his face and to know his face. All the missing children. But I personally think that the more people that know his face, the more likely it is that if he is out somewhere, that more likely someone will actually recognize him and be able to call and we can bring him home.
Oh,
Um,
I'm calm. I mean, emotions can sometimes get the best of a person.
I know.
Well,
You know,
here's what I'll say about Trev, and I'm gonna say this open and publicly.
it's okay.
So Trev sent me a message and he apologized.
Hmm.
He apologized to me and my wife because he made a mistake. He got wrapped up in, I'm going to call it the sauce. He got wrapped up in that with jumping on the bandwagon of assuming and accusing us. Now, he went back and he has changed that. He has apologized.
Hmm.
That, that right there alone, I'll do your show because you did it. You did what you were supposed to do as a man or a woman, excuse me. A
Yeah.
new age thing nowadays. Sorry. Um, Righteousness, the right thing, that will get you a lot farther than the rest of it. I mean, it's one thing, and that's what I'm saying. JLR, this dude, he's gonna have to make a public apology. He's gonna have to make it public for me to consider him. And the reason why I say that is because how much crap he put out there and to the level he has gone to certain topics. There's one topic, okay? My kids don't.
Yeah.
Don't cross that line. I
I
don't care who
understand.
you are.
I understand. I'm just saying,
I mean,
and it don't even have
one
to
of
be.
the well, one of the reasons it took us a little bit longer to do some of these interviews, okay, and this is before we started doing interviews and talking with media, we were kind of advised, hold off, don't do that. Well, eventually got to the point we needed to start talking to the media.
Hmm.
The parents, myself, Katie, and Seth, all decided, we made a pact in the beginning. Hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to keep each other in the loop. We're going to talk to each other and ask. We're not just going to go out here and do our own thing. Okay. That has always been our pact. You know, we would call Seth and say, hey, initially he didn't want to do any type of interviews, and we understood that.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, hey, man, do you want to like phone in with us? Do you want to come to the house and we'll do this as a group? What do you want to do? We've tried and try, and we want to do this as a group. You know, unfortunately, you know, somewhere along the way, we've all kind of gotten off track, and he's kind of gone out and done his thing. We've kind of done our thing. Mrs. Rogers done her thing. I think his sister may have done something. I mean, but it's everybody's getting the word out. Well, he didn't have to do it. He
Yeah.
manned up and apologized because he made a mistake, and he said, "Look, I know I did. I'm apologizing. Appreciate that, man. That means a lot." Now, all your viewers out there, I want to say thank everybody, regardless of what your personal opinion is of me, my wife, the situation, the bio father, anybody. It doesn't matter. I personally say thank you for being able to continue to spread the word, be a part of this, and in any form, shape, or fashion. Um, and just know that you got three parents missing a son that needs to be home. And compassion
Yeah.
is, like I said, in short demand and could be overfloweth with people out there if we could just find a way to become all one united group, and we can just do this. There's, like I said, there's information that we still, um, even as of today, we had a meeting with law enforcement, and we've asked them verbatim, like everything we've been saying, is there anything you want us to change? Is there anything new that we can put out? And honestly, they said exactly what y'all been putting out, the way you've been putting out is exactly what you need to do. Don't add to it, don't take away from it. You know, and trust me, it kills us because there's so there's facts that we could put out there and it would put a lot of things to rest. But we can't because of they say it can potentially cause issues to the investigation. Make them
Um.
good. Come on. I know
Make
y'all got them hard ones.
so.
Well, the reason, so just to clear this up, because I had already heard that somebody in that show popped off and said, "Well, he don't talk to a man."
Mhm.
Well, I'm not jumping on that show because that wasn't your show. That was his show that
Oh
y'all
yeah.
were in. I told you and made you a promise that I'd come talk to you.
Yeah.
Never promised them.
Yeah. It worked
And
out
see, they could have jumped in on your show. I wouldn't have been upset with that. I wouldn't have cared.
get prepared to put on my boxing gloves.
No, and I mean, you put on boxing glove thing. This you walking into a slugfest. No, you.
Yeah, I wasn't
I
sure.
told you what I would do, and I've delivered. And I, like I said,
Yet.
you got people out there want to ask a hard question. And I got no problem still to this day. Tell them find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
You want to ask a question that wasn't answered in the show? Hit me up on Facebook. Send me a
Yeah.
direct message. I'll answer you.
Oh, they should absolutely be punished to the fullest extent possible.
I'm gonna give you two answers, and the first answer is gonna be exactly what Mom said. The legal system will do its due justice. My non so legal issue is just imagine what a mama bear does when her cubs are attacked and what a mama bear could do. Just leave it at that. You know, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to hurt somebody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the attacks. I mean, if you hurt our son, and just hope law enforcement gets a hold of you.
Just thank you for helping spread the word and helping to search for my son.
Yeah.
My prayers and thoughts go out to everybody. Not we're all going to have our own differences of opinions, okay? But we pray and we have thoughts, and it's all in good kindness and good hearted. And we love you all. But thank you, and please keep spreading the word about Sebastian. Keep him in your thoughts, keep him in your hearts, and hopefully we'll get him home very, very soon. And we'll see about trying to do a big old welcome home bash.
Gonna have to
Absolutely.
rent out a big public space for that.
Yep.
Pay for it.
Uh,
Absolutely. Well,
well, like I said, man, man, my word, wanted you to know it, and like I said, anybody's available to ask me a question, I'll answer them to the best of my ability as soon as I can. Um, I mean, ultimately, we are searching for Sebastian as a community. Everybody, you know.
contact Bobby Simmons at 1-800-TBI-FIND. He's the investigator up there at TBI, or Brian Carter at 615-451-383.
Okay, guys, so I think it's a good time to start a new timeline since we have a couple of different versions and more information from Katie. But first, I want to mention that Katie and Chris are constantly talking about how people don't want to look at the facts. And for me, that can't be farther from the truth. I actually hang on every word Chris and Katie say because let's face it, Katie was the last person with Sebastian before he went missing. Chris seems to have been on the phone with Katie a lot, and I'm not convinced that he wasn't home, but based on his statements to Smiley, like, we would have heard something, and then he catches himself when he's explaining why he thinks Sebastian didn't go out the window or use one of the louder doors to leave. According to Chris and Katie, they believe Sebastian would have walked out the front door if he was going to sneak out or leave the home. In the first couple videos, I started a timeline of events and things that we knew about the case. So with today being April 18th, 2024, we have a lot to catch up on. Remember, this interview took place only 24 days after Sebastian was reported missing, and today marks the 52nd day that he's been out there somewhere. Sebastian was reported missing February 26th, 2024 at 6:20 a.m. He was last seen wearing black track pants with white stripes down the side, a long sleeve black shirt, his glasses, and he is said to have left with no shoes, but he did take a keychain flashlight. An Amber Alert was issued February 27th, 2024. The search for Sebastian was said to have been scaled down on March 4th, 2024. But then, March 7th, 2024, there was a massive search at a Kentucky landfill. The reason for the search was because the Proudfoots trash had been collected, and that's where it was brought. The driver of the garbage truck told law enforcement where he dropped that particular trash load off. The landfill search only lasted a few days, but no evidence was recovered. Now, search dogs like bloodhounds, cadaver dogs were used to search ponds and to pick up Sebastian's scent. A massive search ensued with air, land, and water searches. They did grid searches. The community members came out and were searching with Seth Rogers. Everyone was searching, but the Proudfoots. They were not searching. They were sitting and waiting in their home, doing nothing, complaining about all of the heat they were getting for sitting around and doing nothing. And as I said, law enforcement did say that they scaled back the search efforts, but the United Cajun Navy also got involved. But all of these searches turned up no answers, and it brings us back to the most important part. Who was Sebastian with? And where was he when he went missing? The answer is Katie Proudfoot and his own home, his own bed, his own bedroom. Smiley definitely asked the hard questions. Her viewers sent in hard questions, which really aren't very hard questions at all, I guess, but the Proudfoots had to be handled delicately, or they might shut down. But with them being on the spot and Chris bragging about how he'll take questions and answer anything anybody wants and bring on all the questions, all the really hard ones, and acting like the ones that she was answering weren't very hard, it really seems like they were backed into a corner. And so they did divulge information like the windows were not tampered with, none of the doors were tampered with, and the doors were locked. They talked about the codes for the home. So Sebastian knew the code for the front door keypad, but he didn't know the garage door code. So that's very important information that should have been given out in the press conference that they never had. The day that Sebastian went missing, or even when they put the Amber Alert out on February 27th, 2024. But that was never done because it seems to me that they wanted to delay search efforts. Another reason I believe this is because they did not provide the most up-to-date pictures of Sebastian. They provided a picture that looks like he was about 2 or 3 years younger, which would also hinder people from pointing him out or knowing his face as it looks currently, which is a major problem. Chris mentions a pact that was made between he, Katie, and Seth. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't want to talk too much about it, but because I don't think it's worth mentioning, except for the fact that, like I said before, sometimes pacts can be used as a manipulation tactic. And if Chris and Katie Proudfoot did ask Seth to make a pact, that makes me think that maybe they were trying to manipulate or control the narrative. So, building out a timeline for what happened from Sunday to Monday is fairly difficult because there was given so many different ones. But basically, Sunday, February 25th, 2024, Sebastian starts his day with his mother, Katie. She makes him breakfast. Katie gets a phone call asking her to pick up her niece, Esther, for the day, and she and Sebastian leave their home. They pick up her niece and head over to BJ's grocery store, where Katie says that Sebastian had a colossal popcorn. And that is weird that they had a good time in the grocery store, and she emphasizes that. Now, Katie describes bringing the groceries home, back to her house, and then they head out to the bowling alley. After that, they are done with the bowling alley and they go to dinner at Texas Roadhouse at 6 p.m. that evening. A server confirmed this. There is also footage that has not been released of the two being at the restaurant that evening. After which, they went home, where Katie says that Sebastian played until 9 p.m. Katie describes telling Sebastian that it's time for bed and that he says goodnight to his puppies and herself. And she said that she stayed on the couch reading a chapter for school. She attends DeVry. And around 10 p.m., she heard a noise coming from Sebastian's room, like he was messing around in there, she said. Now, Katie did not check on Sebastian, and she instead hollered from the couch, "I don't know what you're doing in there, but you need to get to sleep." Katie didn't elaborate on this at all, and she says that she went to bed about 12 a.m. At 6 p.m., she goes to wake Sebastian up for school, but he is not there. Now, this is part of Katie's story that doesn't really match up. She has given different versions and personalities when she's telling this story. And what I mean by this is, in the first version, 8 days in, Katie's just rocking back and forth. She's crying seemingly uncontrollably, but she's also does this with a lot of giggling in the first interview. So it's really hard to get a good baseline with her. When describing Monday morning at 6 a.m., Katie is very vague and she doesn't give a lot of details. When I was first watching it, it was very excruciating because I felt like the interviewer had to fish for answers from Katie, and when she did give answers, they weren't very useful ones. In a second version, and it's the only hands version interview where it's just their hands, Katie doesn't give a lot more details, and she is very rushed when she is telling what happened, almost like she's trying to get it over with as fast as she can. She does add one embellishment, that she let him stay up a little bit late. So she said he was playing and then some, because she let him stay up a little bit more later than she normally does. And she said everything seemed fine. In this version, when Katie is describing what happened when she realized Sebastian wasn't in the bed or in the house, she said she panicked. And then she proceeds to give the same story that she did the first time. She adds urgency to her tone, yet it is so rehearsed. And She says that she was hysterical, but it's just so dry, just disingenuous and ice cold when Katie recounts this. Katie then says that there was a three-way call with police, which was the first time we hear of this, and then she abruptly stops herself and trails off, saying, "And we haven't found him." So Chris then pipes in and he says when he got the call that Sebastian was missing, he did like what she said, meaning Katie, and he told her to check this, check that, again, rushing through it as fast as he can to get that part of it over with. Then he jumps to calling the sheriff's department and he says he stayed on the phone most of the time. He says that he asked for a relief, got in his truck, and drove from Memphis to Hendersonville as fast as he could. They also add in a detail and say that they looked for all of Sebastian's shoes and none of them were missing. So they thought that that is why he left barefoot or without any shoes on. Initially, I thought that the interviewers were being delicate with the Proudfoots during questioning because they wanted to spare their feelings. But as I watched and learned more about Chris Proudfoot, I realized that he is a narcissist, and not all narcissists are created equal, but they share a lot of the same traits like grandiosity, lack of empathy, lack of remorse. But the really good narcissists, the one that wreak the best havoc on people, and I'm being sarcastic, are the malignant narcissists like Chris. So he always thinks he can charm the pants off of anybody or sell his BS to anybody, and his massive ego allows for this. He must be in control in every situation so that he can manipulate every detail to fit what he wants people to think. And now that I've watched Chris through these 4 interviews, I can see that he was most definitely driving the roller coaster ride that he talked about, and that they were on it from day one. He's been controlling it from day one with law enforcement, with CPS, and with the media. That is one piece that is abundantly clear. Now, in the 3rd interview, Katie starts off by making an underhanded joke about Sebastian and then is very sarcastic and puts off a tough girl persona. She is also wearing a Harley Davidson t shirt, and a detail that Katie adds in is that they had a great morning and that they were laughing and joking. And she also adds that she went to go pick up their niece and that the 3 of them spent the day together going to BJ's grocery store, dropping the groceries off, going bowling, and then out to eat at Texas Roadhouse. I find it odd that the only details that are consistent and that do stay consistent throughout Katie's story, or all of her stories, I should say, are the ones that can be verified through surveillance video, like the grocery store, the bowling alley, and Texas Roadhouse. Katie adds weird details like the fact that Sebastian ate a colossal popcorn. Now, I know this doesn't sound like a huge smoking gun, and maybe I'm wasting a little bit too much time thinking about it, but if her niece and Sebastian were out together, why wouldn't she describe her niece and Sebastian both eating a big popcorn? Or why wouldn't she just say that they all shared a huge popcorn together? It's just an odd detail that doesn't really matter. So why is Katie putting so much emphasis on it? I think it might be because Katie is trying to throw things off. She also mentions that she bought a bunch of snacks for Sebastian, which doesn't make sense either, or the fact that they had a great time at the grocery store, which, let's all be honest, nobody has a great time at the grocery store unless they're giving away free samples. So going on to say that when they were at the bowling alley, they just went to the bowling alley. She doesn't say that they had a great time at the bowling alley, which is where you would think they would have the best time. She doesn't say that, though. She said they had a great time at the grocery store. And it's just very bizarre. The bowling alley that they went to was actually an amusement park, an indoor amusement park with a game zone in there. So it had an arcade, a bowling alley, and it was like an indoor type amusement park. So it looked like a really fun place. And so that's where you would have thought she would have been like, yeah, we had a really great time there, because that's where Sebastian would have played games and things like that. And he really enjoys doing that. So After they got home, she says that Sebastian took the trash out to the end of the driveway. Another new detail, and now she also lets us know that that is one of his chores. At 9 p.m., she tells him to go to bed. He came out of his room where he was playing, another new detail, and he said goodnight to her and the puppies. At 10 p.m., again, she maintains that she told him that she doesn't know what he's doing in there, but he needs to get to bed. She went to bed at midnight. That stays consistent. And again, she woke up at 6 o'clock to wake Sebastian for school. She went to wake him up and he wasn't there. Katie said she had to censor herself in this version. And she said, "Holy freaking crap, this can't be happening. Where is my kid?" She said choice words were used. Where the F is he? Katie said she did look all over the house for Sebastian and that he sometimes likes to get up and rummage for snacks or hide behind walls and scare her. She said that she looked in all of the places where she thought he would be, and it took about a minute flat, which is different from what she said before. Before she said it was like 2 or 3 minutes. So, just details that are just changing, and I don't know why she would do that if she was recounting the truth. She also says that she ran all over. She looked out all the doors and windows and was hollering his name. That is very different from what she said before as well. Then Katie jumps back to the verifiable information, like the fact that she called her husband first and told him that she couldn't find Sebastian. Chris asks her, "What do you mean you can't find him?" And she says, "He's not in the effing house. I can't find our son." And she adds what she never said before was that she jumped in her car. She says she drove all through the neighborhood and over to the school. She said that she was hysterical and she was crying and screaming. Another part that changes in Katie and Chris's story is the three-way call that was made to the sheriff's office, and he told her to go back to the house, which was not a part of the original story. So she says that he told her that the cops are on their way. So it's very hazy, and it's changing major details that are very important to what happened to Sebastian. Now, in Smiley's impromptu interview with the Proudfoots, Katie is asked what kind of noise she thinks she heard at 10 p.m. that night, on Sunday night. And Katie maintains that she didn't know what it was, but it was probably him messing around in his room and that it's not uncommon for him to do so. When Smiley asks her why she did not check on Sebastian, Katie says because he's a 15-year-old boy and she doesn't want to go barging into his room. Which I understand that, but she could have knocked on the door and checked on him. If she heard a noise in his room at 10 p.m., it's too late for a noise to be happening in his room. But instead, she just told him she didn't care what he was doing and he needed to go to bed. Now, Katie is very defensive when she's answering these questions from Smiley. It's kind of nice to hear some sort of emotion in her voice. However, it's disheartening to know that the only emotions that come out of her are when she's defending herself or her husband. When she's describing what happened to her son that night, is completely monotone, stoic, and rehearsed. She is asked why the three-way call, and Katie replies that she was screaming and crying and frantic, and then at that point, she couldn't even make words anymore. Chris pipes in, and he, of course, has to be condescending and rude, treating everyone like they're stupid, and says that when you live in a rural area, the sheriff is the one who has the jurisdiction. This is true. With them living in an unincorporated area, the sheriff does have jurisdiction, but what Chris fails to mention is that he was calling from Memphis. And if he was calling from Memphis, and the 911 operator would have been dispatched to his location in Memphis. So again, it's just a very cloudy area where we have Chris Proudfoot three-way calling the sheriff, and so we have no 911 call or any audio of the conversation that happened with when Sebastian was reported missing. And that to me is just really stinks. It's super fishy. It stinks like fish. And the best part about this is Chris is actually trying to convince us that when there is an emergency, we should call the sheriff directly instead of calling 911. We should all live like Mr. Chris. Don't pay attention to any of the things we're taught when we're little children growing up, that we should always call 911. If there is emergency, now we should listen to Mr. Chris. Now, why are the Proudfoots lying? There are so many inconsistencies in what happens and what the Proudfoots say happened. Not only about what happened, but also about what they have done to find Sebastian. It's absolutely maddening because they are the last ones to know what happened to Sebastian. Katie was the last one with him, and at the end of the day, he went missing from his own home. And if we are to believe Katie, then that only leaves us to presume that the answer lies within the home. All of the drama that surrounded this case is a direct result of Chris and Katie Proudfoot's lack of response to Sebastian going missing, to their lack of effort during the search, to them not showing up for candlelight vigils for Sebastian, and ultimately both of them going ham on social media. Katie says in her interview with Olivia that she doesn't go on the internet anymore. Now, Katie is lying, obviously, because after that interview, she went on a live with Smiley. But don't forget, Chris puffs his chest out and says he does go on the internet. But if you remember, the first person that spoke with Smiley during her interview was Katie. And remember that after Smiley's interview, she went on Jay and told her that she thinks that Katie was the one that initiated the live. She didn't know which it was, whether it was Katie or Chris. She didn't know for sure, but they sure did get their panties in a bundle when Smiley commented on another live that they need to be sure to cut off benefits if they were still collecting them on Sebastian. And that really riled them up. From Chris coming on angry and raging every time he's asked a hard question and patting himself on the back when he thinks he's fooled everyone. He's making snarky comments and remarks like, "Give me another one," and "Oh, I thought that was going to be a hard one," and he laughs, a devious, maniacal laugh, as if we weren't going to notice. And to be honest with you, Katie and Chris can rage all they want, but they could use the energy toward putting up Sebastian's missing posters or digging some of those yard signs into the dirt like they said they did. But we know that there's proof out there that they didn't. And maybe start telling the truth. But for these two, I think that's way too much to ask for, because at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. They're not looking. The fact is they're not putting out yard signs and missing posters as they said they are. And all we need to know about the Proudfoots is no matter what they tell you, they're lying. Another thing I want to talk about briefly is the sabotage that has happened in the search for Sebastian. Like I said, when the Only Hands video came out, never have I ever, and this is another, I have never heard of such nonsense, such interference, and such despicable behavior from the public. It's utterly ridiculous that there is a 15-year-old autistic child who is out there and people are tearing down flyers. They have hindered search efforts by the United Cajun Navy by sending them death threats. And don't think some of us didn't notice the motorcycles going by at the candlelight vigil that Sebastian's father Seth held for him. There is a young man who is missing, and anyone who hinders him being brought home has some karma coming back to them tenfold, and you better believe it. Best thing about that is that we can leave it to God, and we can say our prayers, and we can let him take care of it, because what goes around comes around, and whoever's doing this is going to see what it is to have that come around. Now, Seth Rogers started a petition, and I'm going to drop a link for it and pin it in the video below. So definitely go and read up on it. And if you should decide so, which I hope that you do, please sign it to help Seth get resources that he needs, whatever he needs. I know it's a little confusing, and it confused me too that Seth is wanting us to sign this petition, because it was from my understanding that the FBI was involved from day one, but apparently they were not involved since day one as heavily as Seth needs them to be. And so, with it not being classified as a criminal investigation, he needs all the help he can get, is the long and short of it. It's definitely putting up a lot of roadblocks and understanding and finding out what happened to Sebastian and where he is. So please consider signing the petition. Now, Seth also enlisted the help from the Uvalde Foundation, and they put out a couple of statements, and I'll read them to you. So the first one says, "We are now 100% convinced that the family of Sebastian Rogers knows far more than has been revealed publicly. We are also now equally convinced that the recent developments indicate answers to be revealed soon." Now, that's signed by Uvalde Foundation for Kids, and it does have the hashtag Seth Rogers. And then there's also a statement that was just tweeted out yesterday, and I believe it was from the Twitterverse from Uvalde Foundation for Kids, and it reads, "Today, our foundation literally went through hundreds of messages and emails in regard to Sebastian Rogers and our efforts. Our efforts continue, and our stance remains at this juncture to avoid jeopardizing the progressing investigation. We cannot elaborate further. Answers are forthcoming, and this is also with the hashtag to Seth Rogers." Now, guys, there was a search at a retention pond, and Chris brings it up during the live with Smiley, and I know for a fact that the dogs had hit on a retention pond, and one of them actually dove in the water. And to my knowledge, this was the one where the set was picked up. I know that there was some talk about maybe a false positive on that. I'm not exactly sure. And another piece that's really, really hazy. So it just seems like anytime it comes to something that's important that can't be directly verified, it's hazy. And I would really love if anybody has that information, send it over to me, definitely, because I would love to take a look at it and we can talk about it. I've also seen the flashlight video, which is way too hard to make out. So I want to show it to you guys. We're going to go over it really quick here. I did see some really awesome overlay action that a couple of subs on Jay's channel did to it. And the takeaway basically, I mean, let's be honest, the video looks like a couple of UFOs. My theory on the video is that it could be floodlights from someone else's home, or it could be from the Proudfoots garage, because they do have lights above their garage. But let's take a look here. This is aired on YouTube, and this is home surveillance video from Monday at 3 a.m.
We have had several clips that have come in.
And it was taken from the Proudfoot neighborhood. It's a camera that points out to a common area. But I want Nick Barris, who dropped the video, to go over it. He explains it way better than I do.
In the video, you see subject 1 with a light source in the lower right-hand corner. Then you see subject 2 briefly appear and move toward the first before that light source is covered or obscured by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area, and that is it.
Okay, so my theory on the video is that it could be floodlights from someone else's home, like I said, or it could be from the Proudfoot garage, which would line up with where the dogs went to the construction area where the retention pond is. Without having solid answers, though, it's hard to make out the video, and it's hard to know exactly which pond the dogs hit on. Again, it's very hazy with any kind of information that we need. It just makes it really hard. Without having any reliable explanations for these, though, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But what do you guys think about the video? Let me know. And if you can do some cool overlay action and you have some theories, definitely share them in the comments below. Now, Katie gets the ice cringe, and Chris is just a regular cringe emoji. So he's got the cringe face, and Katie gets the ice cringe for her callous and frigid demeanor. In this tale of two liars, Sebastian is somewhere out there, and we won't know what truly happened to him until he is found. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just pointing out the obvious. Deep down, Chris and Katie both know it. They are both lurking in the comments on social media, no matter what Katie tells you, and that's why they keep cleaning up each other's statements. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was born on December 7th, 2009, to his mother Katie and his father Seth. This makes him a Sagittarius, and we can be quite a lot to handle. Although he was born with a chromosome deletion syndrome and later diagnosed with autism, Sebastian lives life like any American kid. He loves video games, board games, card games, and can out-strategize his opponents in chess. I'm sure he is a stellar Uno player as well. Sebastian is unique. He loves to laugh and to make other people laugh. His favorite color is green, and he loves to eat sushi and tofu. His teachers describe him as always smiling, a ray of sunshine. One says, quote, "He's just a fun-loving kid. He has a great sense of humor and he loves people and animals." She also said that he is talented and extremely smart. One of his teachers said that he seems very typical and that if you saw him walking around, you would think he had no deficits at all. Sebastian's sense of humor is one quality that stands out the most to me. His dad says that he liked to ask the school resource officer how many tickets he was going to give the teachers that day. And he said that he asked him that every day. It's very apparent that everyone at his school misses him terribly. The ray of sunshine isn't walking the halls anymore or sitting next to them in class. Sebastian loves water. He swims like a fish. He also loves to go fishing with his dad. Sebastian has had a bad experience with fire ants in the past, and while walking around barefoot years ago, according to his dad Seth, he did not like to go barefoot, but somehow we are expected to believe that he left his home in the middle of the night without shoes on his own free will, taking only a flashlight. Sebastian is out there somewhere, and I know we are all praying for his safe return. We can't stop until he's found. Thank you all so much for listening. Everyone take care out there and stay safe out there. I'll leave everyone with a quote by Confucius. I think it's very fitting. 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. I really believe the truth is here. We just have to look through all of the BS. This is Lady Freedom. I hope you all enjoyed my raw narrative today, and I would love to see you next time. And please feel free to drop a line in the comments, even if we don't agree. And if there's something that you think I left out, I would love to know about it. Conversations spark ideas, and we can really use all of the ideas we can get. Thank you all so much. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.